Hello, George Hepworth, Grover Park Consulting. We're building the Lander Trail Foundation's online searchable database application. In this video, we're going to look at one feature of this application which it has in common with many other applications, both in the browser interface in PowerApps and in the Access applications that we have all built for our clients. Specifically, I'm referring to the approach by which we present a list or a read-only display of information that is available to the user and a separate form in the Access world or a screen in the browser through which the user can then interact directly with the data involved. In this case, I've pre-selected several books on the subject of Tom Horn, who is a famous individual in Wyoming history. He's kind of a controversial person because he was either a hero or a villain, depending on whose point of view you take. There are 4 titles in our catalog with the words Tom Horn in the title. In this display, we see a read-only view of the most important information, or at least my evaluation of what's important. The Library Foundation may decide that they want to add information to the screen or take information off, depending on how it's actually used. There's the full title, The Saga of Tom Horn, The Story of a Cattleman's War, and then the subtitle, the year it was published, who published it, how many pages. This information comes from the Google Books catalog. I've discovered that it's usually very close, but not always exactly right. How many volumes we have in total and which one this is. So if we have 2 or 3 copies of the same book, it'll be volume 1 of 3, volume 2 of 3, and so on. The confidence level here is 90%. That means that when I captured the information from Google, I was quite confident that I was getting the correct book. In addition, I don't have the ability to check the internal pages in the book, so I don't know what edition this really is, and the same is true for printing. And my evaluation of the picture that I have of the book from the volunteers who collected the information in the library for me is that it's in good condition. It might be very good, but based on that picture, I'm going to say it's good. We have display, again, read-only of the author, and the display read-only of the history, or the categories, which in this case is history. We could add some additional categories, and we will in a later video, and a summary of the book. So it explains the history of the book. And if we look at the second volume, you'll see a different book on Tom Horn, title, subtitle, pages, published date. This may be a little less reliable based on that image, but again, looking at what I'm able to see, which is only the return from the Google Books catalog, that's my best guess. And then the summary. Again, basic information, year of publication, how many pages, and so on. So this is the list page. We call it a list because you can filter the total number of books by either the category, and there will be far fewer categories than there are books altogether. So this is a smaller list, but using it to filter brings back a small number of books. And authors. Now there will be nearly as many authors as there are books in most cases, because one book, one author. We list all of the available authors, all the authors in our database who have actually been represented by one or more books in our catalog. We can filter, but we can't edit. So let's look at the editing, and let's edit the details on this one. This is the detail screen. As you can see, we expand on the amount of information that's available. For example, the ISBN code, which is on the back cover of many books, starting in the late 1970, 1980, somewhere in that time frame. The publishers began putting the barcode with the ISBN on the back cover. Catalog number, we don't have catalog numbers assigned yet, but this would allow Lander Trail Foundation, the curator or the librarian, to assign a catalog number of their own devising to their books. More about that in a later video. Whether it's the first printing, second printing, and again, without access to the internal pages in that book, I can't tell what the printing is. I know it's volume 1 of 1 volume. If we get a list price back, and sometimes Google will give me a list price, sometimes not. As I said just a minute ago, the page count is usually very, very close, but not always 100%. This is the year Google thinks the book was published. It is subject to verification again by looking at the title page in the book. I labeled it 90% confidence because I'm pretty sure that everything here is reasonably accurate, but not 100%. And whether this is a hardback or a paperback or a special edition, a collector's edition, whatever, that information again is only available by physically examining the book. By default, 99% of our material is going to be books. And again, I'm going into the middle of the road between mint condition and trash condition and saying it's kind of the middle of the road until I hear otherwise. Publisher, this came from the Google Books catalog. Again, that's subject to verification and modification. And finally, location in the library. I have no idea what their bookcases look like, what their shelves look like, and where this book might be held. These are placeholders which will be completed by the librarian or the curator when they actually get this in their hands and start working. Any changes that I've made here, and I will just add an internal comment. I'll say used for demo. And now I can save that with the changes that I just made. I changed, and it brings me back here to the list page, ready to look at a different book. Most applications in the Access world and most applications in PowerApps are of this list form, edit form, or list form details, or read-only display editable details format with 2 different pages. In addition to the details, we have 2 other functions for working with authors and categories. I'll show those in a later video. And we can assign a cover image of our own choosing if we don't like the one that we got back from Google. I can tell this is a Google image because they have this little folded back corner on their images and kind of a clue that that's coming from the Google Books API as opposed to one you can tell this one was actually taken by someone in the Lander Trail Foundation library directly. So that leads us to the end of today's video, in which we looked at the traditional classic method of presenting a list of items from which we select one or more for our focus, and then we pulled 4 out of 1929 with our searching filter, our contain search. And then we are able to pick any one of those items. In this case, we have 4 to choose from, and we can edit the details in a second screen, or in the Access world in a second form. The purpose of the edit screen or edit form is to open up each of the data points in a way that allows us to update, edit, add, or in some cases we can even delete if we need to. In the next video, I will come back to this same screen, the detail screen for this book, and show you how we go about saving our changes. And I'll preview that by indicating that, contrary to my preferences in the Access world, where I think bound forms make more sense, in this format, in this environment, I have come to prefer the alternative method. And I'll explain what I mean by that in part 6. If you like what you've seen so far, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos, subscribe to my channel and hit the notify button so that you get notification when I drop another video. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.